Have you ever heard, there's a housing bubble or there's a market bubble or something like that? But what does it actually mean for there to be a bubble in the market? Well, in economics, a bubble is an interesting thing. And in this video, we're going to explain what a bubble is. Anyway, before we begin the video, make sure to like the video and subscribe. So a bubble is a small mass of gas with liquid, the liquid of which containing the gas within. However, in this video, we're not talking about those kinds of bubbles. In this video, we're talking about an economic bubble. So what is it? Well, it's a bit complicated, but let's begin with a couple of important aspects and details. First, we need to understand inflation and deflation. In economics, inflation is when things increase in price and deflation is when things decrease in price. In this video, we only need to understand the basics of inflation. However, in another video, I'll be explaining everything in more detail, so make sure to subscribe. The inflation I'm talking about is inflation in a market or in a country. Every country has an average inflation rate per year. In the US, the average inflation rate is 2.5%. This means that every year prices increase by 2.5% and your money is worth 2.5% less. So if you have $100 in 1 year, you would only be able to buy what you could buy today with $97.5. Essentially, you'll lose $2.50 every year out of $100. And this is normal and a good thing. You would think, well, that's a bad thing. My money's losing value. But overall, for the economy, it's a good thing because it's a signal that the economy is growing, that things are becoming more expensive and therefore people are becoming richer. However, too much inflation is a really bad thing and too little inflation is also a bad thing. Okay, so now we can begin to understand what an economic bubble is. A bubble is an enclosed market or section of something that is rising at a different rate than everything else. So this means that everything in an economy is about right here, and every year it increases a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. However, there's a bubble over here, and while this is increasing this much, the bubble went this high. This increased a little bit more, the bubble went high. So there's a section that's going much faster than the rest of everything. Now, this can be in a section of an economy of a country, or it can be a country as a whole. So let's say that maybe there's a country that's rising very quickly. However, the rest of the world is staying down here. Eventually, this country will be too rich for anybody else in the world. Now, either they're going to be very exclusive and stay in their bubble, or they're going to have to burst and come back down to stay with everybody else. Now, this isn't as big of a complication for a country as a whole. However, within a country, if there's a section of the economy that's too high, that can present a problem. So let's imagine a scenario where housing is increasing by 10% a year and everything else is increasing by only 3%. Now, this is actually a pretty real scenario where houses are increasing at a much faster rate than the economy. So when the economy increases 3%, the housing market has increased 10%. It will take the economy 2 more years to get even close to where the housing market is. However, by then, the market of housing has already increased another 20%. This means that it's going to get further and further away until it's too high and it has to burst and come back down. Now, this is the basics of it, but it's much more complicated because how does the economy get so far apart? Why do houses get so expensive while the rest of the economy stays down here? Well, the reason for it is likely loans. It becomes so easy to buy houses that buyers now have more power, which makes it easier for sellers and buyers to buy and sell. But because of this, sellers have figured it out that if they list their house for more money, they're probably going to get it because buyers have more money, even though it's not their money, it's money they're borrowing. But because of this, the economy in this small area, as in housing, can increase much faster. But it gets to the point where it just can't grow anymore, where houses are far too expensive for the economy. At this point, the price of the houses has to come down. However, after a while, the economy catches up and houses can once again begin to rise in price. So why do bubbles happen? Well, essentially with the housing market, we kind of determined that one of the biggest factors in it being a bubble and growing so quickly is because they can get loans. So the more a market can get loans for, the higher likelihood that it's going to become a bubble. So if there was no loans, the economy may very well never crash, because if it ever were to be a problem, nobody's in debt, nobody has these issues, and the economy will likely continue to beyond steady. However, these loans are what allow the economy to grow so much. So countries want to grow, so they want to loan out money. And this is a good thing for building wealth and having people have a better quality of life, and it's worked. We today live better than we ever have in history. However, this comes with that problem that it's going to burst at some point and likely come down again. However, the government tries very hard to ensure that this never happens, but eventually it happens anyway. But predicting when the market will crash is extremely difficult. It's impossible because there's so many details that go into it, and it's so complex that timing the market just doesn't make sense. For this reason, investors never try to time the market. When the shit hits the fan, it's bad. But it's better to have been investing than to have waited for this to crash. And then once it does crash, all these people that were waiting to get in don't get in anyway because of all the uncertainty. But just imagine if financing was not as easy as it is to buy a house. Houses would not be worth nearly as much as they are because there aren't as many people that are able to buy these houses. So because of these loans, the demand has increased. However, the supply has also increased because people want more money. And as people are willing to pay more, more people are willing to sell. But it's unsustainable for something to grow faster than the economy. Anyway, hopefully that made sense. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like on the video, and I'll see you guys next time.